Now this is an English event, and the party has strived to provide educated, lucid and civilised speakers, and up to this moment they've been extremely successful. David organises a list of speakers and insists on contrast and variety. Black country sophistication seemed to him to be the perfect antidote to eloquence overload. I am no longer a member of the National Council, so I'm taking the opportunity and liberty to present a purely personal opinion, and I should like to take the opportunity to thank our leadership for giving me this chance, and in doing so displaying their true English grit and courage. I do this and hope that our leader will allow me to remain a party member. Now, the Interpretation Act is an umbrella piece of legislation. It explains that in legislation man includes woman and vice versa. So when I use the familiar Englishman or he, it also includes our ladies. In fact, it includes anybody wearing a skirt, unless of course yet another Scotsman has infiltrated yet another English institution. I have put a presentation on YouTube that is designed to help set the scene and understanding for what I am about to say. Here's the link. The idea of a United Kingdom was good, but it required the goodwill and commitment of all involved. That was never forthcoming, and will certainly not pop out of the fairy godmother's wand at this late stage. Flag-waving patriotism is fantastic. The stirring sight of masses of our flags is truly inspiring. St George's Day, magnificent. Jerusalem, red and white shirts and an English bull terrier, great. But these are just symbols. Important symbols, but people have to identify with them before they become meaningful. I think that it is now obvious that we're not going to get English self-determination and a return of our nationhood by appealing to English pride and patriotism. For too long our people have been conditioned to recoil at the sight of anything English. They've been denigrated, denied an identity and ethnically washed away in a tide of artificially generated guilt and denial. It is a fact that sophisticated people in Middle England gave twice the number of votes to the monster raving loonies than to a party with English in its title. That is justification enough to say that appealing to the patriotism of people that are either ashamed of their nationality or not aware of it is not going to be very productive. I say that with due recognition of the great injustice that has been thrust on the English people. I say English people deliberately. I do not say the people of England. That is because it is us ethnic English that are in process of being marginalised in our own country. There is an attempt to rewrite history, and claims are made that there are no such people as the ethnic English. The anti-English British government trip over their two left feet to recognise the ethnicity of Scots, Welsh, Irish, the Australian Aborigine, the New Zealand Maori, the American Indian, Gypsies and every recently constructed state of the Balkans, but not yours. You, like the Yeti, are a myth. But in their desperation to deny English ethnicity, the British government have to recognise it. They cannot obliterate or discriminate against that does not exist. They have to see the target in order to direct their discrimination against it. They have to admit the existence of the English in order to be able to direct their attacks against us. In order to be excluded, you have to be identified. And it most certainly is not all the people of England that are being racially discriminated against. It is the ethnic English that are the target. The way that we're identified is not by naming us, but by naming every other group and designating them an ethnic minority. It is identification by exclusion. What is now required is that the English themselves recognise their own ethnicity. Our party needs to recognise that as well. I think that I have always loved England. I say think because until the last decade I never had to think about it. I, like most English people, was not into overt flag waving. So why the change from benign patriotism to political activism? It wasn't because I suddenly fell in love with the English ideal. It wasn't because I smelt the first dews of an English spring, a cuckoo, or the rolling hills of our lovely counties. It was not the sight of the English flag or a picture of St. George. It wasn't a proud patriotic awakening or voices rendered hoarse by the strains of Jerusalem. It was the realisation that the voice of authority and representation in England was turning into a clipped Scottish brogue of relentless demand. My television spoke to me in short barks of northern authority. My telephone seemed to connect me north of Hadrian's Wall every time I sought advice or needed to make inquiry. The voice of advertising and public opinion took on a song that became to me a grating, relentless whine that made me dive for the TV remote. It was also the realisation that the streets of our cities and towns were becoming enclaves of conversations in languages that I could not understand. What turned me was rage, was anger, outrage at what was being done to me personally. The lowering of my living standards, the attack on the very roots and fabric of my identity, the imposition of second-class status on me as an Englishman. The denial of choice in the matter of immigration. The lack of choice as to who I want as my neighbour. The use of my hard-earned money to support Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Europe, an American war, African dictatorships and friends of politicians without consultation or even a modicum of consideration. The deliberate and cynical destruction of the counties of my childhood and the wanton dilution of our traditional neighbourhoods. The betrayal of my father who lies buried in a war cemetery in France. It is a personal insult from creatures that are not even of the same genetic species as the people that built the nation that they are currently trying to obliterate. The utter contempt that these people have for me as an Englishman and the casual dismissal of my existence makes me feel murderous. The contempt is well illustrated in the YouTube presentation that I mentioned earlier. It is a contempt that the cowards dare not show to even a convicted foreign terrorist. Yet they are comfortable and confident to ceaselessly throw the insults contained in that film at us, because in their eyes we are of no consequence, because we are without voice. That is what changed me from a passive British man to a fighting Englishman. It is personal, very personal.